Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Willard, and I'm really happy today to be talking to Joe Hishmeh. Joe is the lead pastor at Fellowship Church in Topeka, Kansas. And Joe, I'm super excited that you could join us today. I want you to tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your church.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's my honor to be with you guys today. Hey, I've been here 12 years, and man, as I just think about 12 years in one place, I've grown tremendously as a leader, and our church has in depth. I look at being a pastor of a small church when I first came here, and then it growing into a medium church, and then a larger church, and all the leadership decisions and tweaks and changes I've had to make. Man, it's just been a whirlwind experience. But I honestly believe I'm at the best point I've ever been in leadership. And feeling the most blessed from what God has taught me over the course of these 12 years.
I can't let that go not challenged, but I want to invite you to talk more about that. What is it that makes you think that you're sort of in this kind of best place you've been in a while?
Yeah. Well, number one, when I came in, we were a small church. I was doing everything.
Yeah.
I was doing copies. I was cleaning bathrooms. I was taking out garbage. And I was a master of nothing, but I was adequate at a ton of things. And then you hire staff. I mean, this is all cyclical. You go through those things. But at this point, I've really understood what my role is and really understand the influence that God has given me and how to steward influence. And that's what I'm really excited about.
That is really cool. And of course, now you guys you're running like 4 services on the weekend, 2,100 or so in weekly worship attendance. And it's really, you're riding a rocket, Joe. It's got to be both exciting and challenging at the same time.
It is. The average age of our church is 28 years old. So we're a young church. 42% of our church is under 20. So we're just hit with kids. And here's the other funny one is we only have 7% of our church over 60. So it really, on one side, it really bucks the trend of the American church. But on the other side, we really look at the strategic nature of endowing the next generation to be passionate, sacrificial followers of Jesus.
Yeah, that is really cool. And, it's interesting that you would make that reference because, of course, one of the things the main thing that we wanted to talk about today is the whole topic of generosity and stewardship and giving and some of the great things that you guys do there to encourage your church to get it. But it's so interesting that you would have made that comment about the fact that you have a younger church because so many of us that are kind of in this world, we know that it's kind of the builders and to a lesser degree the boomers who really have funded the growth of the church in America recently. Well, your church doesn't have a whole bunch of those folks. So talk about, Joe, how it is that you became convinced that you needed to focus, of all the things you could focus on, that you need to make generosity and stewardship and giving one of the things that you focused on there at Fellowship Bible in Topeka.
Sure. Well, in my study with the Leadership Network, and you were the leader of that group that I was a part of, you took a risk on me. But really, I really wanted to dedicate myself to understanding why is it that usually the churches that are older give more. And you just look through the cash earning or the income earning potential of different people. And when you're young, you've got a family and all your money and income is going out. But in the process of you just spending all of it and not having anything left over is you really rob yourself of being a generous person. And everyone wins when there's generosity. Everyone. From those who receive it to those who give it, primarily to those who give it. And I just didn't want to rob a younger generation from that opportunity to really start making some difficult decisions of funneling as much money as they can into the kingdom of God.
That's cool.
And because that's where it was at for me. And frankly, over the course of my walk with the Lord and my marriage with my wife, Cheryl, is we've been most blessed the more we gave away. And I've always tithed as a believer, but really I wanted the larger picture of what does it take to begin this.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, let me ask you this. As you've been through this journey of trying to figure out how do you encourage generosity and stewardship and giving, I'm sure you've come across some things that have really worked well and maybe some things that, not so much. So give us a couple of thoughts on things that you've focused on where you've seen some good results, and maybe one or two things that either you're working on or things that you've tried that really haven't taken yet.
Yeah. Well, things that haven't worked well are complaining. Complaining to my congregation that they're not where they should be. Shame and guilt rarely work. Shame and guilt work for one-time givers, but it doesn't work for ongoing systematic family members. It's kind of like the uncle who comes to you and says, hey man, I need $50 this month to cover my electric bill. You'll reach in your pocket, you'll give $50. He comes the next month and says, oh, and by the way, my cable bill is out, and you don't want to give him that money anymore. And churches do that all the time. I remember being in a church and leading that way a little bit. And it just squelches it. It just squelches the opportunity.
I think I heard it. I think it was Jeff Bezos from Amazon who said, complaining is not a strategy. And right? And I think that is a true truth. I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, but it's understandable that you would do it because you want not just from your congregation, you want for them to experience giving, and it's hard not to kind of lean on them a little bit.
You're right. So here's where this is where on that same picture, my greatest challenge turns into a greatest opportunity, because my gift is exhortation. And I love to present a vision of what does the Bible say? Where are we in obedience to that? And where we could, if we just believed God and did the next thing. And so we really help our people take stairs to generosity rather than just dropping the 10% bomb on them. And we show them some really good opportunities to begin. And then we move them to, this can happen every month for you. And then we move it into, and this is over a lifetime, this is what could happen with you.
So what are some of the strategic things that you've done that you think have encouraged people to get it, to understand generosity and stewardship?
Yeah, we did a series called the Everything series. And that was about a year and a half ago, focused in the month of May, and I really focus on the month of May. It was strategic for us because we're doing the planning for a new ministry budget. And we basically said, hey, whatever you give in May, I want you to give every other month here because you're part of the family. And just what would it take to do that? But whatever you give in May, you're telling us you're going to give that the rest of the months for the year. And that'll help us plan. And man, we're doing it again this month. And we're doing a series called Everyone because we're pursuing a vision of everyone in our church family engaged in worship, in giving, in a group, a small group, and then in ministry.
Now, have you actually seen that stick? So people, maybe somebody who was a sporadic, irregular giver, and they give, $500 in the month of May. Does it stick with that? Do you see people sort of stick with it?
It sticks with online giving.
Ah, right on, because they set it up.
That's right. Think about how many things, especially 18 to 35-year-olds set up online that are ongoing. They don't even look at it, but they know it's there and know it's going. So that's been beautiful for us. And to be quite honest, here's my deal. I go to 4 services on a weekend here, and there's been months when I've forgotten to put a check in the offering because I've been consumed with preaching or distracted with this. So online giving for me has, now I always made it up, okay? It's not like I robbed God, but I always go to online. I tell them, look, if a guy who misses it for 4 times, being here 4 times on a weekend, everyone can go online. And that has really solidified it.
That is really a genius idea, Joe, because you're not saying, hey, buddy, to figure out how much you're going to give on a regular basis and start doing it.
Yes.
Because that sounds too big. Instead, you're saying, decide how much you're willing to give in the month of May.
Yes.
And then start giving monthly based on that number. It's just there's something easier about it. Something less, like you said, there's a step there.
Yes. You know, I mean, in every area of biblical obedience, that passage where Jesus just pounds on the Pharisees for digging a hole and not offering a hand to get out. And I look at that and go, everything I call a young congregation to, if I'm going to make a biblical imperative that we need to be doing this, I've got to give them a hand on how to do that. And that's the first step. It's a simple step, but when it's done regularly, it develops character.
That's so cool. Okay, now let's, I know that you get to also probably not only pastor your own congregation, but you're taking phone calls and emails every now and then from other churches that are out there trying to figure some stuff out. So if I'm a pastor and I'm thinking, man, I really want to begin to help my congregation get generosity and stewardship and giving. What would be some first steps or kind of big ideas that you would encourage me to try?
Sure. Well, you've got to be able to measure your realities. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know many pastors who know the true realities of people's giving patterns in their church. And I'm not even saying knowing the names of the people and how much they give. That's certainly one area there, and you can run into problems with that if it goes out of control. But the primary thing is as a whole, what are your percentages? How many of your people are giving on a regular basis? And those are shocking numbers in the American church. They make you stay up late at night wondering, what in the world? I mean, they do with me. I'm humbled by them all the time because I'm never just impressed by how many people can come here on a weekend. I'm more impressed when I can see growth and maturity, whether it's initial relationship with Christ or a growing relationship with Christ. Man, those are the things I want to measure. Otherwise, I mean, frankly, you can get a lot of people, if you just spend enough money to come in, you can give things away to have people show up. But that's not what God holds us accountable. He holds us accountable to making disciples. And giving and generosity is that. So know those realities so that you can kind of chart out a plan. That's what a pastor does. He problem solves his congregation by stewarding a vision for them and then guarding and protecting and advancing and implementing that vision.
That is so cool. I mean, a couple things are rolling around in my head. The idea that I heard years ago in business school, you measure what matters.
Yes.
You measure what matters. I think another one of those sort of cliches is that you can't manage what you don't understand, and you do not understand what you do not measure.
Yeah.
Right? And I like what you're saying, Joe, because what you're saying is that even a pastor who loves to teach the Bible and cast a vision and disciple believers, he still needs some data to help understand some stuff, right?
Yes. That's right, because you have to communicate that reality. And here's the deal. When I've done the work and come up with really good numbers that are accurate, they aren't emotional, they're accurate. And when I communicate those, I hear gasps.
Wow.
When people get it.
Yeah.
And man, then I know I've at least said what reality is. and then we can move to what could our future reality be.
That's good. That's awesome. Hey, a couple more things before we wrap up. When
Sure.
you're thinking about generosity and stewardship and giving, anything else that you think he should have asked me this? How come he didn't ask me about any other issue you want to get into or thing that you just want to share or talk about?
Yeah. One thing is, it's not just generosity. It's like we focus on 4 key environments here at Fellowship. And it's that environment of you committing to a regular engagement of God daily through your time with your Heavenly Father and weekly with your time with your church family. Relationships are key. People commit because of relationships. Jesus is not a religion. He's a relationship with us. And it's God with us. And that so meets the need of our deepest longing, that really the church can offer something our culture cannot in relationship. And so I think as a leader, generosity is a byproduct of people who have connected to a relationship with God and their church family.
Yeah, it's so good.
But it's also, you steward 3 things as a church. You steward the gospel and the advancement of it in your city. You steward the goodness of God by how you treat others and how you stand up for truth and grace in your culture and in your city. And then you steward the gifts that God has given you. And that's money, that's spiritual gifts. And you have to craft a vision for those 3 things when it comes to generosity.
That's good. Hey, anything you want to let us know about? Anything you want to plug as we wrap up here, Joe?
Yeah, man, I want to plug your book because I not only read it, I met the author. Contagious Generosity, man. Great book and really coaches. Now, anyone out there listening to this, I've been coached by Chris. And, man, you need to hear and grow in the areas because there aren't many leaders who are focused on the depth of resources and wisdom he can give you and equip you to lead well.
Wow, Joe, you delivered that exactly the way I wrote it for you.
Thank you. And can I just say this? I received nothing for it. Nothing for it.
And let me say this, that I don't know that I've received anything for writing the book either. But but thanks for saying that. It's very kind of you. Listen, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing there, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Joe Hishmeh, Fellowship in Topeka, Kansas, in America's heartland.
That's right.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, bud.
Hey, man. God bless you. Thanks for the time. Bye-bye.